But you actually have the support of a number of folks, some of whom I have a lot of respect for. So we were grateful to be able to get you on the show. You and I have some things in common, military brat. Let's
We,
talk about your family being stationed in Germany. Are you Army, I'm assuming? Let me not
yes,
make that assumption.
yeah. Is there any other branch?
I
I don't
mean,
know.
well, now listen, I have listeners from every branch. All the branches matter. But
They,
we
they,
know
they do.
Army brats, so we know Army brats gonna brat a little differently, just a little bit differently. Talk to us about how that experience, being exposed to service early on, what was that like for you, and how, if at all, did that contribute to your eventual joining the military yourself, and now what will that do for your ability to represent your community in Congress?
Yeah, so coming from, that kind of diverse background, having my biological father being of American, heritage, African American heritage, and then my biological mother being, a German national, right?
Mm,
And then I'm born on a military installation, so in 1983 I had dual citizenship, right? And I still have dual citizenship to this day. So coming over to the United States of America and being very observant at a very early age, I started actually seeing exactly what you kind of introed and talked about, and what your show talks about all the time, right? Resources and how they're allocated. That's what
yeah,
politics are.
yeah.
And I always go to this story. I always go here, Lori, because it's
Oh,
one.
it's Lurie. It's like Marie with an L.
I'm sorry,
No
Larry.
worries.
This is what I always go to when I'm out talking about healthcare. When I was a dependent for my dad, I had Champus VA.
Yep.
I had Champus health insurance. We went to Moncrief Army Hospital. I got my allergy sheets. I got my Prevento inhaler. Every piece of medical prescriptions that I needed to get filled, and not a dime came out of pocket. Not a
Right.
copay, not a dime. That's how we should be treating our active duty military, but now we have TRICARE, and it's all in efforts of saving a dollar and padding somebody's pocket. So,
Mm.
like, my experiences in the military helped shape my ideas on how we can make this a little bit of a better place, especially for those lower enlisted guys.
Yeah. You know what's interesting? I had a very similar experience. It was really weird to me to come from a military background where medical care coverage was not an issue, dental coverage wasn't an issue. And then we lived in Germany for so long. My mom was like, "Well, what we gonna do is we going to the German doctor." So we took advantage of everything. But to go from that and then to come back stateside and see how that was such a privilege, because access to healthcare was really privilege, right? It wasn't even about whether you were employed or not. It was like whether or not you had the right type of employment with the right type of healthcare plan, with the right type of deductible that you could actually afford. Then you might get insurance, but God forbid you leave that job or are forced out. You're not going to have that same coverage. It was weird for me. It was weird to see how as Americans overseas, we were getting access to benefits that people back home we're calling socialism. And I was like, I mean, technically, I guess, but like, I sure do like my socialism healthcare coverage because damn, it feels good to not die of preventable diseases. So there's this weird sort of marketing thing that happens in the United States that sort of allows us to put labels on things without really understanding how these things can impact us. But you've been in rural Arkansas for quite some time. And a lot of times when we have people who are running for office, the rural community is sort of an afterthought, not intentionally, but just a lot of times we're sort of I don't know, shaped to think in ways that center city and urban spaces. Maybe that's because I'm in Brooklyn. But talk to us about what your commitment to and the years of work that you've had in the rural communities of Arkansas. How has that also informed your desire to run for office?
So, being a court appointed special advocate, that's the best job I never got paid for, right? And later
Mm,
on in my life, having been a foster child, I understand exactly what it's like to not have a voice in court. So, Lurie, shouts out to you because, you got that Juris Doctor. Let me tell you something, that's huge. And I appreciate that, right? Because
mm,
y'all are on a different level. So I understand what it's like to not have a voice. Now, when you sit back and you look across rural Arkansas, that's exactly how we feel. We feel like we don't have a voice. Everybody always wants to talk about the big city problems. Everybody always wants to talk about the hot button issues, right? Everybody wants to talk about what's going on in Little Rock and Fayetteville, but nobody wants to talk about what's going on in Eudora and Mississippi County. Because see,
mm,
I got a problem. I got a problem because when you start focusing all the attention over there on the metro areas, all the infrastructure and all the resources, they start falling by the wayside in the rural communities. No wonder everybody want to leave. So what we wanted to do, especially from an operations perspective, when I worked in broadband, instead of those big companies going into rural communities because they just won't do it, I went with a small company and we did. We went and brought fiber to the home internet to places like Humnoke, Arkansas, Eudora, Arkansas, Parkdale, Portland, Grady, Gold, the outskirts of Lincoln County, places where you got 20 miles between neighbors. We went into Star City. We went into Carlisle, Lonoke. And here's my reasoning why. Business-wise, Verizon, T-Mobile, all these places are going to have to put cell towers. They're going to need circuits. So you're going to make money, right? But selfishly, no child should be hindered in their growth to be successful based on where they were born. That ain't their fault. So let's give them the broadband access that they need, they deserve, and that they're entitled to. And now I'm proud to say that across rural Arkansas in multiple cities and counties, you can get faster, cheaper, more reliable internet than you can in Little Rock or Fayetteville.
Let's sit there for a minute, because I take having access to the internet for granted. In fact, if my children experience a flux in Wi-Fi, it is as if their privileged little behinds have just been put through the ringer. You would think you would have thought they went to boot camp, that as much as they were struggling. We take it for granted when we are living in an urban environment. Give us a sense as to what life was like for the people you were in connection with. And I want to talk about your efforts to bring broadband to the community in depth a little bit if we can. Give us a sense as to what life is like for people in rural America who do not have access to internet. Keeping in mind, most of the people listening to us right now are using some form of internet to do so. What is that like?
I'm going to give you a story, because this one hit me hard. 2020, right? You got the pandemic going on. Everybody's learning from home, right? Down in England, Arkansas, Mayor Butch House is the mayor down there. I partnered with him and I said, let me bring fiber to the home internet into your city. It's not going to cost you a dime. Shouts out to Joe Biden. Appreciate that infrastructure money, right? It's not going to cost your city a dime. It's not going to cost you a dime. Let me help you. I met a 16-year-old kid. At 16 years old, he's a senior in high school. And the only reason why he didn't graduate the semester before is because he wanted to get his extracurriculars up on his college application. Wow. The kid was beyond intelligent. He was beyond anything you could imagine. When you talk about, I took calculus in high school, and I can't hold a candle to this kid's mathematical abilities. But he couldn't get a college application to Ivy League schools done online at the library because you're only allowed 10 minutes at a time. Now, if you're filling out the college application back in 2020, they didn't save your place because they want you to get it done in one fell swoop. Essays questions changed. All their testing questions changed. He showed it to me. I said, man, this is crazy. So we went ahead and made him the first customer in England, gave it to him for free. I said, I just need you to test it out. Let me know how it works out. The next day, I ran into him and I said, how's everything going? And he said, I got my application done. I also caught up on my Call of Duty. I had been abandoning that. And I think I got done with the first 3 seasons of Archer on Netflix.
Oh my
and I was so excited. He said, man, it's been so long since anybody's had any internet down here because we've only had one provider. And now, fast forward from 2020, where now he's applied and he's gotten into, I think, Columbia University. He's off and traveling and he's at school now, right? But fast forward to 2024, England went from not having a single real broadband provider where they were using old DSL technology. Damn. Now they've got 3 fiber to the home internet providers in the same city.
I mean, that's a round of applause, air horns, something. My God. Now, Rodney, you were doing this before you were even thinking about running for office. Why? What was it about providing this particular service that mattered so much to you?
I know what it's like to be broke and poor, and I know what it's like to feel like your voice don't mean anything. Yeah. I know what it's like. You're sitting up there and you look at these guys in these suits and these ties, and and they're these decision makers, and they're rich and they're wealthy, and you're passing them by. They don't give you a second thought. Right. And that's how the rural community feels. I know what that's like. And I also know how valuable the rural community really is. I know how valuable they are because when I got adopted out of foster care, Lurie, I got adopted into a family that worked farmers market retail. I can tell you all day, we talk about boiled peanuts all day long. We can talk about produce, but if I got to shell butter beans, I'm gonna have to choke somebody. It's bad. Shelling butter beans, my thumb still hurt from 1998. So we're not shelling butter beans no more. But I know what it's like to feel abandoned. And when you don't have any infrastructure and you don't have any reason to
Yeah.
stay, you
Yeah.
leave. And
Mm.
now we got all these towns that have so much historical significance, like Elaine, Arkansas.
Yes.
Elaine, Arkansas is so historically significant, not just for Americans, but specifically for African Americans.
Right.
That was a huge bastion of success at one point in history. And now you go down there and we can barely hold it together. And it's because
Mhm.
people leave. You
Yeah.
grow up in Elaine, you going on the first bus out.
Wow.
Well, if we get some internet there and we have some utilities there and we have some reason to stay, we may be able to get some economic development and we may be able to rebuild Elaine and all these rural
Mm.
communities what they once were.
Yeah. I love that your drive is not to create pathways for people to leave rural America, but your drive is about investing in rural America. And your advocacy, because we've already, it's one thing when people come on this show and they want an elected office position, but they ain't done nothing. You just gave us that's a big old fat receipt, Rodney Govens, to be able to provide that level of connectivity. Because when I'm thinking about what was happening in COVID, I run a law center when I'm not on these airwaves, and we were getting complaints from people who kids were getting access to laptops that were being given away, but the laptops were missing like the letter E and the space bar. I don't know about you, but it's really hard to type when you ain't got like a whole ass vowel and when you don't have like the ability to have like to type a complete sentence. And that level of frustration was palpable. People were so frustrated with that. I cannot imagine spending weeks, months, years at a time doing dial-up in the year of 2020 something. And so the fact that you were compelled to do that really does speak to a heart of service. But you've mentioned a couple of times now that you are a court-appointed advocate. You said it was, if I recall correctly, the best job you never got paid for. And I just want to shout out to all the court-appointed advocates out there, because you are the angels in that courtroom representing people who would not have access to the type of defense that they need without you. So for people who are not familiar, talk to us a little bit about your role as a court-appointed advocate and why that held particularly significant resonance for you.
So, being a foster kid, when I was 12 years old, my mother kind of gave up on me. My
Mm.
father had already passed away, and my immediate family didn't want to come down and get me. So I went into a children's home in Columbia, South Carolina, called Etmore Children's Home, United Methodist Children's Home. Shouts out Miss Bellinger, the greatest house parent ever. Shouts out to Jim Hunter. He's still one of my good friends to this day. He was my pastor there at the church. He used to make us wake up at 6:30 on a Sunday morning. If you try to get a 13-year-old up at 6:30, the challenge is there. So shouts out to Jim for dealing with us. But um, coming up that way, and then I remember going to court a couple of times, and they were in the process of hiring an attorney ad litem. That's
Mm.
supposed to be my attorney, right?
Mm.
So biological mom's got an attorney over here at the table, Department of Social Services, Department of Human Services, depending on where you're at, right? DSS, DHS has their attorney over here. I have no attorney. I'm also 13 years old. I have no idea how court's supposed to go, except for the times that I've watched Law and Order on TV on NBC, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm looking at Judge Abigail Johnson, and nobody's asking me what I need, what I
Mm.
want out of all this.
Mm.
And so when I get back, me and my house parent are talking, and Miss Bellinger told me, when you make it out, she never said if with me. She always said when. She
Yeah.
said, when you make it out, you got to pay it forward, right? So when
Mm.
I moved to Arkansas, the first thing I did was sign up to be a CASA in August of 2017. And it's been the best job I've never gotten paid for. And because I used to be a foster kid, it gives me that insight. So that way I can make sure that any case that I have, my kids know that not only are they well represented, but whatever they want and whatever they want to say, I'll say it for them. And I'll say it with my chest so that they don't have to be fearful to say it for themselves.
Mm. That's significant because that really does end up being what we want elected officials to do, right? To advocate on behalf of the community, to say the hard things, to do the hard things, to make the hard decisions, so that you are able to really show up for the people who have put you in office as most powerfully as you can. So let's talk about this effort that you now have. You're running for Congress. Let us know a little bit about your district. Give us some sense of the demographics and who would be your constituents and what your vision is for how you would be able to make their lives better.
So it's the largest geographical district in Arkansas. It's 31 counties. So we're talking about and some historical ones as well. We're talking about Boone County, Harrison, Arkansas. For anybody who's not familiar with Harrison, Lurie, I'm pretty sure you're familiar with it. You probably already know. Harrison is home to a radio station called White Pride Radio, which is owned by Thomas Robb, who is allegedly the leader of the KKK. That's Harrison, Arkansas. That's the beginning of my district. And then all the way over to West Memphis. And I think we know some of the significance there, especially around the West Memphis 3. West Memphis and Crittenden County, you know, historical significance there, especially when it comes to the civil rights movement. And then all the way down through the Mississippi Delta, Phillips County, Lee County. So we're talking Marianna, Arkansas, Elaine, Arkansas, Helena, West Helena, all the way down to Chico County, which is Eudora and Lake Village, Arkansas. Eudora doesn't get enough love. I always got to show my love to Eudora, Arkansas. They're great. Love the mayor. Shouts out to Tamika Butler. So I want to make sure everybody understands that big number 7, and it's right there above my shoulder, right there.
Yep.
Big number 7, that light blue one, that's the district, right? So demographically, a lot of veterans. I think it's the biggest veteran district in Arkansas, especially when you go up north towards Baxter County.
Wow.
It is very, very white. There is a lot of white. It is very rural. It is very, but it's very poor. I think it's the poorest district out of the 4 as well.
Yeah. Wow.
And it's very tough, but here's the beautiful thing. So I was just at the Baxter County Fair a week and a half ago. I was just at the Greene County Fair yesterday, up in Paragould. A lot of people walk around with these Trump hats on. A lot of people walk around with these Republican shirts. They make comments, you know, beautiful to see some red. I got a red shirt on today. It means absolutely nothing to me. I just don't wear orange in my house. You know, go Gamecocks. I don't deal with Tennessee or none of that.
Red's actually one of my favorite colors, but that's okay. We'll move on.
Yep. So it's, you know, so I'm just watching, you know, and listening and learning and talking to people. And amazingly, some of these people, a lot of these people actually, have turned out to be some of our biggest supporters.
Wow.
Because they tell me that they're not voting for me because they agree with me on 100% of the issues, because nobody ever should anyway, right? If you agree with your leadership 100%, somebody's lying. Either they're lying to you or you're lying to them.
That's right.
He said, but the fact that you're coming and talking to me and not at me,
wow,
I can get behind that.
Yeah.
And that's, I go to the Republican booth. Like if they got little Trump cutouts, whatever, I don't care. I just got to go. I want to shake your hand. I ran into my opponent for the first time in 8 years yesterday.
Wow.
This dude has never been in Arkansas. He never comes home. I ran into him yesterday and shook his hand, and I introduced myself and I told him, you know, I'm looking forward to our debate on October 8th at 11 a.m. because I think we got a lot to discuss.
Yeah.
Very professional. I'm not scared, right? And that people see that and they're like, who is this guy? What is this about? And the reason why I'm like that is because I'm not going to sit by and let people bully others. No bullying. And that's what a lot of people like to do, especially when it comes to politics. But those 10% of bullies, they forgot that 90% in the middle, that 90% is coming with us on this train. And that's what we're making our headway at.
We've been talking a lot about bullies on the show over the past couple of days, so that's very appropriate. So what is your vision for this district? How are your residents, how are your constituents going to get better? And I love that people are reaffirming for us that humanity is humanity. And while people might think about you, what they're going to think about you, what they will remember about you is your service and how you improved or impacted their lives. I'm not at all surprised that people who are, by the demographics we would presume would be in opposition to you, are actually you're finding some resonance there, because people respect service, and everything you've talked about thus far is how you have worked to make people's lives better. So what is your vision for the future of your district? How is it going to be better off with you in office?
Well, I think number one, first and foremost, when we get elected in November, I'm going to try everything I can to get a seat on the Department of Health and Human Services Committee.
Huh.
And I want to specifically go up underneath on the infrastructure subcommittee underwater, because I don't understand how Helena, West Helena went without water 3 different times this year.
Come
And
on.
it's all because we can't get no grant money out to Helena West. So you got the money, but you're asking the city to come up with money that you know they can't come up with. I think we can figure something out there, right?
Now, this was just to pause you there, because we have had former candidate for governor for the state of Arkansas, Chris Jones, on, and he has talked with us about this water situation. We were horrified. I could not believe that y'all's governor, Sarah Huckabee, sorry, this is an official. I'm sorry. Sarah Huckabee Sanders. See, I got too much Karen Hunter in my head, so I could not believe that she is buying like metaphoric golden, what is it? Not a golden toilet. That was Donald Trump. What is it? The thing that she invested, all the speakers, podium, all these things that she is investing money in, the ways in which she is focused on making life harder for everyday working people. Y'all could have had someone so much better as a governor. But Chris Jones was on to talk with us about this water issue and the fact that there is water, there are resources, but they are not providing the resources for the Helena, West Helena community. And that he was talking about it, as have others on this show, was largely due to issues of race and racism.
And I'm going to take it one step further. And as far as Sarah goes, I can't be blamed for that choice. I voted for the rocket scientist, so I don't know what happened with that.
Yes.
You know, but we're endorsed by him too, and me and him have had this conversation, because what's disappointing to me, Elaine, Arkansas, USA Today rated Elaine, Arkansas's water tower as the number 6 worst water tower in the country.
My God.
Yeah, you really want to know the my God moment is the congressional representative sits on the subcommittee in infrastructure for water.
Yeah. Wow.
And he's done absolute. If anybody should have great water in this country, in this state, anybody should be able to turn their tap water on and know 100% of the time my water is good to go. Yeah. It should be every single constituent that he has, because he sits on that committee.
Wow.
He makes the decisions on where this money goes.
Wait, I just want to be clear for people who might have missed it. The current representative for this district sits on the committee that is responsible for the very concerns that the folks who are struggling without access to water have in the district, and yet he did not use his power to ameliorate those issues or to provide access to water, which is literally life.
He's done not a thing. And not only that, but when Helena, West Helena's water failed for the 3rd time this year, me and my team, we paused everything. I've got to raise money. I got to talk to voters. I get it, but I got to go down and be with my people and make sure they got water. So we did a water drive. We brought a ton of water down there. I packed down the Nissan Titan. Another buddy brought a truck. We packed it in there. We went to the Eliza Miller Opportunity School, and we handed out water. While we were doing that, my opponent was at a book signing in Harrison, Arkansas.
Wow.
Your people are going without water. They can't take showers. They can't cook. They can't drink. There's nothing for them except for a water buffalo in the middle of town and 4 National Guardsmen to make sure that everybody gets equal amounts of water. This is not the way to do a leadership position. So that's just a little bit, a little bit of context around this water issue. Yeah. Elaine, Helena, West Helena, and the problem is there's more to come. Wow. We need to get ahead of this. We don't need to wait. We need to be proactive.
Yeah, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And this is why elections matter, right? Elections matter because, again, if politics is about the science of distributing resources, and in this case, the resource is literally water. That's how basic this is, folks. We're not talking pie in the sky. We're not talking all highfalutin. We're talking water or no water. We're talking thirst quenched versus perishing from dehydration. Very basic stuff. And when you have elected officials who have the ability to distribute resources effectively and equitably, and they choose not to do so, then it really is time to make a different leadership decision. So talk to us about this election. You already mentioned you have a debate coming up. What's the voter registration looking like in your community? What's the voter turnout machine looking like? Give us a sense as to how people in the broader audience can help. What's on the line for, or how are we moving this line forward so that you can make sure you get people to the polls so that they can actually make some of these changes?
The deadline to register to vote here in the state of Arkansas is October 7th at noon. Right,
Okay.
that is the deadline.
Okay.
Now, my birthday is October 5th, so I'd love to have a birthday present of 100,000 new voters, right?
Wow.
We're 20,000 in so far. Since Kamala announced back in July, right, since that announcement was made, I think we've got more than 20,000 new registrations in the state of Arkansas, which
That's
is unheard of.
amazing. That is
Unheard of.
amazing.
Oh yeah, they're quaking in their boots right now. So
Mm.
we're gonna continue to go down that pathway. We're going around meeting voters, talking to voters. You can always go to our website, rodneyforcongress.org. That's the website there. You can always visit us there. You can search for us on all the socials, Rodney for Congress, TikTok, Facebook. Now I ain't doing no dancing on TikTok, Lurie. I don't do all that. But
Listen, me either. I got a TikTok account. All I do is repost other people. I ain't got time. It's too much.
nah,
It's too
we
much.
but the biggest thing, the reason why I got a TikTok, man, I started seeing a lot of the political videos, and I started following a lot of the accounts. Well, shouts out to Good Trouble. I love that account too.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there looking, and one night I get an alert on my phone that there's a lawsuit that dropped alleging that congressional representatives are underpaid. And I
Hmm.
started looking at this lawsuit, Lurie. Why is my opponent in this lawsuit the only active member of Congress in a class action lawsuit suing the United States taxpayer,
Wow.
saying that I got to get more than $174,000 a year? And for the last 12 years, I've been underpaid. And as a matter of fact, I got this TSP retirement account that's been underpaid too. As
Mm.
soon as I got that, I printed it out and I went up to his office right here where I live at in Cabot, Arkansas,
Yeah.
because he ain't never there. And that was one of my first TikTok videos that I ever did. And I said,
Wow.
I gotta make this known to
Yeah.
people. Like
Mm.
this is the audacity, the audacity.
Mm.
You got
It's
people
it's
out here
it's
living.
rich. Pardon the pun. It's a little rich. It's a little too rich for my blood. And
Right?
listen, I'm all for people being paid fairly, but you represent people who ain't got water. And
You
you sit
make
on a committee that can bring
$5.
them water. I don't think that speaks to your ability to do a good job. And if you don't do a good job, you don't get more money. That's not how this works.
Lurie, he voted against veterans. He voted against the PAC Act. Thank God it passed, but he voted against the PAC Act. I'm a veteran. So
Mm,
is he. How you gonna
mm,
vote against the Vietnam era guys, man? Like what in the world? He said we can't afford it. He
wow.
voted against the Joe Biden infrastructure bill, right? The
Yeah.
American Rescue Plan. He said we can't afford it.
Mm,
He voted against all sorts of stuff. And it always goes back to trying to be this fiscal conservative, like we can't afford this. Well, if we
mm,
can't afford that, if we can't afford to bring good, clean water to Helena, West Helena, and you can't figure out a way to partner with the city to get a grant going, if
yeah.
we can't afford to help out Elaine with their water tower, if we can't afford for Vietnam era veterans to get their benefits for being exposed to Agent Orange decades ago, then I
Mm.
don't think we can afford back paying a pay raise for you, dog.
That's right. That's right. And listen, my father, who was a Vietnam vet, not only did he also have prostate cancer, but the cancers and the level of toxins in his body from being exposed to Agent Orange, like that, I will forever be angry about that forever. And so when you are in a position of power in particular, and I'm not, I've said this on my show, I'm the only one of my siblings who didn't serve. politically very much in opposition to military use of empire defense. However, I get it. I understand it. I'm only here because my daddy was in the military. I mean, I understand. But when you are voting in ways, using your political power as a congressional representative to make life more difficult for veterans, who many of whom are driven to military service because of a lack of economic opportunity, not to say that they would not have served, but when that factors so heavily in so many people's decision, and then you got power and you gonna use your power to hurt those people, to me, that's scum of the earth kind of levels. And so I'm hopeful that people are hearing your call. And now they have internet to help them do it even better. So thanks to you and the work that you've done. So one more time, if you can let us know how people, where do they go to donate? Where do they go to sign up to volunteer? And how else can the audience outside of Arkansas, how can they uplift and help promote your campaign?
So we can go to rodneyforcongress.org. That's RODNEYFORCONGRESS.org. And all of our donation links are right there on our splash page, of course, right? Got to raise that money. We got to run some ads telling everybody how we're running against the scum of the earth, right?
Mm-hmm.
To quote the great Lurie Favors, right? We're running against the scum of the earth. We might steal that one.
I take it.
Follow us on all the socials at Rodney for Congress, right? We've got a Twitter. We're not as active on X or Twitter, whatever it's called today. We're very active on Facebook. That's where most of our demographic kind of gets their information. And then we're on Instagram. I think we're on Threads now, and we're pretty active on TikTok. Even I can't figure out the rules on TikTok, but we're pretty active.
Yeah, you better than me. I don't either. I'm just here so I don't get fined.
Right. But keep the main thing the main thing. It's time for change in this country. It's time for the voiceless to finally have that voice, and it's time for us to unify and understand our power. Because John Lewis told us, he gave us the playbook. All we got to do is go vote.
That's
poor
right.
people, we as poor people, we can unite, and we can finally get not just the crumbs off that cookie anymore. We demand that we get that whole cookie.
That's right.
They've had too much cake for far too long. Let's go get ours.
I love it. I love it. Rodney Govens, best of luck to you. I know you've got some pretty honorable, amazing people rooting for you, and we were so glad to see what is really a groundswell of support for your effort. And keep us posted. Let us know how it goes. We'll be keeping our ears to the ground on how things are looking in Arkansas. I was on a call not so long ago with some folks in Arkansas, and they were talking about flipping Arkansas. I was like, we better come on. Yes, let's make it. Let's say the thing. Let's do the thing and get the work done. Rodney, really been a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for giving us some of your time today.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys.
Likewise.